So today is Monday, October the 10th, 2022. We are at Spaceway Brewing in Rocky Mount, North Carolina. So to start, can you please say and spell your name?
Sure. I'm BrianaBrake, BrianaBrake.
Awesome. And I'm Erin Larimore, here doing an interview for the Well-Crafted NC project. So to start, let's trek things way back.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about where you're from and the road that brought you here.
Okay. Born and raised in Durham, North Carolina. Been brewing. I started out brewing in North Carolina, in Durham as a hobby. Back in, it's been almost 10 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, just was, at the time I was laid off from my job looking for work, so I needed something to do with my hands while I was at home. And I had been going around and, noticing like all these craft breweries were popping up in the area, and I thought they were cool. I like going and tasting the different beers and seeing how each different brewery kind of had their own thing going on, even with their environment, but also you could tell like different brewers from their beers. So I was like, that's cool. So I learned that I could do that at home myself, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I can make something that tastes better than what I'm getting out here. And I got obsessed with it, and ended up, I was in law school for a while and decided, I was going to NCCU doing the evening program, and then I was working at Duke Law School during the day, so I was like lawyers all around me all the time, and I thought that's what I wanted to do. And then I realized, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be a lawyer. And like I said, I'd become kind of obsessed with the whole brewing thing. Like, my kitchen was just brewing equipment and new stuff I found on Craigslist and all that kind of stuff. So I said, well, maybe I need to find a way to do this thing professionally. Like, is that even possible? Then I'm like, there's nobody out there that looks like me doing this. Am I crazy? How can I do this? And I start talking to people, and they're like, oh, that's cool, trying to get like bank loans and stuff like that. And they're like, your background is law and computer science. What are you talking about? I'm like, no, taste this. And they're like, yeah, nah. So fast forward to, I guess it was 2016, 17. I learned about the Rocky Mount Mills. I was actually at an event in Durham. I'm not sure if you remember the Art of Cool. So I got to do I had been talking, I had this idea for a brewery in my head. So I got invited to come do like a brewing demonstration at, it was like a brewing class with Celeste Beatty of Harlem Brewing at the Art of Cool. So we did that, and at that event, the people from out here, we met with them, and they told us about the project and asked if I wanted to come out and do some brewing. And I was like, yeah, because I've been trying to do this in Durham, and I don't have $1 million, so this is a way to kind of get my foot in the door, be in an area that's like a learning environment, because I'm surrounded by other brewers. So it was a no-brainer to come out here and start Spaceway.
Yeah. So when you first got started, were you starting with just like a standard homebrew kit?
Yeah. Just 5-gallon pots in my backyard and on my stove, and a big 10-gallon cooler. And that's what I was doing.
Do you remember some of the beers you were making then, like some of the early ones that you were trying, whether they worked or not?
Well, the very first thing that I did was awful, and I didn't share it with anybody, but I was proud of it because it was still beer, and it just piqued my curiosity, because I'm like, well, what did I do wrong, and how can I make it better? And so I did it again and again and again, and then it was what. Yeah, I have it on draft right now. It's Agent 7 Cream Ale, which is the very first beer that I made, and it's one of my most popular beers now.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's cool to see that people, actually enjoy it, like really like it, because I'm like, yeah, if you'd been around for that first batch,
you gotta try it all first.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned that you were doing the home brewing for a while. Do you remember even before that how you first got introduced to craft beer, just even as a thing?
Like I said, I was going to the breweries, and so that's because before that I was drinking like Yingling, or because I thought I was doing something different than the people that were drinking Corona, And then I started going to these breweries, and I'm like, no, they made this here, and then you could like I think the first one that I really started noticing what was going on was Full Steam in Durham, because you walk in and you see the big tanks and all that stuff, and I'm like, yo, that's cool. Like, what is that? And so I think around at the same time I was living with one of my best friends. She had a condo. In the back closet, like where the washing machine and stuff was, in the corner, there was this brew kit that a boyfriend had given to her, and she was like, of course it ended up in the closet, because she was like, what the hell is this? But I saw it and I was like, ooh, what's that? So I did do something with that, but it was like one of those, I don't know if you remember seeing it, it's like a little barrel, it's like a clear barrel, and it was disgusting. Mm-hmm. And it was an old kit too, so that didn't, and then so from that I started doing my own all grain stuff, and then that first all grain batch was horrible, and like I said, I kept doing it and learning more and more about it. I'm ordering books, watching YouTube videos, doing all that stuff, and I got to the point where I was like, oh, this is actually good, and I started sharing it, and I noticed friends are coming over 2 weeks after I told them I brew, because they knew that's about the time it was going to be ready. Maybe one or two would show up on brew day, but most of them was 2 or 3 weeks later. They're like, hey, what you doing? And so, but I had like 5 gallons of beer at home that we could drink. Like, that was, I built a kegerator. Yeah, I'm telling you, I got obsessed. I was like, I want this on draft at home. And so, I built a kegerator, bought a little mini fridge off of Craigslist, and drilled a hole in the top of it, put some draft lines in there. And so we had beer at home, and and then from there I was just like, this is what I want to do. I don't want to go back to law school. Yeah. And here I am.
You mentioned your background before the law school was computer science.
Yeah.
Do you see, or do you think there was anything from that career that kind of impacted you as you were moving into this new one?
Probably. I think I've always been interested in like science, and I got into computers just because I wanted to know. I wanted to know how is this, But I've always been curious. Like before I picked computer science, I think I was going to go into biology, and before so it was going to be some kind of science something, and then I was also interested in law. And I find myself, I guess, using that background more now than the computer science stuff. Because with computer science, I was doing like engineering, like programming, that type of stuff. I haven't done that in years, but I have to read contracts way more than I thought I would have to. Yeah, I was trying to get away from this, but now, I appreciate that I did go through that, because I learned, what to look for and that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about kind of how you got to the point of opening Spaceway. You talked about the Rocky Mount Mill folks approaching you. Can you talk a little bit more about how that went, and what was Rocky Mount Mills like when they first were pitching things to you?
Yeah, none of this was here. I mean, the mill was here, obviously, because it's been here since 1818, but it was just a shell of a place. Like, it was just a big, empty, old, dusty mill with nothing in it. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do this here and this. And I'm like, that sounds cool, and I want to be a part of it because these are the same people that did the American Underground in Durham, and they turned the whole Durham Bulls around, and it's tobacco warehouses and all that. So I was like, okay, I see where you guys are going, and I think this is a cool opportunity. So yeah, and like I said, they were saying it's an incubator space. So there's other breweries out here, and opportunity to kind of get feedback from other brewers and learn about stuff that I was trying to learn on my own. But to have feedback, that's just that's been everything. So I really like this place. I'm glad I made the decision to come out here and stay out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you first got started, have you always landed on the name Spaceway, or did you have other names you went through before you got to this name?
Well, when I was in Durham, when I was trying to do it in Durham, it was East Durham Brewing Company, because I was trying to go in the East Durham area. That's where my mom grew up over there, and there's not a brewery over there, still not yet. So I was like, but like I said, I didn't have $1 million or $500,000, so that didn't work out. And then they said, well, come to the incubator space out here, and I'm like, well, okay, I got to come up with another name, because I'm not going to be in Rocky Mount talking about East Durham Brewing Company.
It's far East Durham.
Yeah, yeah, very far East Durham. So, I've always been into music. I love to read. I love poetry. Really, at the time, was into Sun Ra, the musician, composer, and he had this song, We Travel the Spaceways. And I was always like, just listening to his music, and he's kind of just in my head all the time. And I'm like I was at beer study in Durham, just walking through the aisles, looking at the different labels, looking at beers, and I guess I was, subconsciously thinking about, okay, I got to come up with a new name, and it just hit me while I'm looking at all the beers in beer study. It was like, no, Spaceway. It makes sense because Sun Ra is like the father of Afrofuturism. Afrofuturism is about black and brown people seeing themselves as leaders in spaces where we're typically not seen as leaders. And I was like, well, this industry, typically see somebody that, a black woman in this space actually owning and running the operation. So I was like, duh, yeah, Spaceway. So it was kind of a way to give a shout out to Sun Ra, because a lot of people come to me now and they're like, I never heard of Sun Ra, but now I'm listening to his music. This guy was amazing, and it's because of some beer. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So if somebody was completely unfamiliar with Spaceway and just saw you wearing that sweatshirt out in public somewhere and said, what's Spaceway? How would you describe the brewery to them?
I guess I'd say it's a minority-owned, woman-owned brewery. We do, try to do different stuff. I have a cardamom stout. Most people don't put cardamom in anything, let alone a beer. I'd say, if you visit the place, it's a laid-back spot, but you might come in and there's a party going on. There might be a band out, playing jazz music, or we might have a rap musician out here. We might have a blues funk band. It's going to be kind of, I guess, different from your typical, brewery, tap room experience. I guess the games that we'll play, I haven't done a trivia night yet, but if I do, it would probably definitely be different than the typical trivia night. So yeah, I'd say that just the music and the vibe is different. You might come in and the conversation is different than what you're going to get at typical tap room. People get really political in here sometimes. It's really interesting to just sit back and hear people talk.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I mean, that kind of ties in with another similar question, which is what do you see as kind of the main mission for Spaceway?
I guess to bring awareness of this industry to more women and minorities, that this is something that they could do, to bring more awareness to the big people in the industry, to maybe do a little bit more to attract the minority, the black and brown people to their establishments. Because I think before, and we're still kind of trying to get rid of that myth, is that black people don't drink craft beer. And I'm like, well, we do if if we could come to a place and where we could find it relatable, because a lot of us just want to go somewhere and feel comfortable and not, like you're looking over your shoulder, or just, not feel welcome, I guess. So, and just be aware that, black people, brown people do drink beer. We don't just, and we don't just drink malt liquor or Corona or Heineken. Like, we like to try different stuff. So just, I think that's it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about opening Spaceway, and like when you first got started, what were some of the challenges that you faced? You talked about the financial part of Durham, and Durham's just so expensive everywhere that I could totally see that. But like even once you were here, what were some of the challenges or experiences you faced in opening that kind of stand out to you?
Okay, well, definitely still the financial thing, because it's still, it wasn't free to get out here. It was easier, but I guess finding help has been the biggest challenge, even now. But in the beginning, like finding skilled help at the budget that that I'm working at. And that's been the big challenge, finding skilled, reliable help. Even from the beginning, even before COVID, that's just been difficult, just finding people that are, I have people that come out and they say I'm interested in brewing, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then they come in and they just want to take selfies, next to the tanks, and I'm like, that's cool, but if you don't watch that, like, the beer is gonna boil over and you're gonna burn yourself. Or if you don't, like, you can't come in here and take selfies. This is like, you can really hurt yourself.
It's an industrial work environment.
Yes, this is an industrial work environment. Like, I'm just getting my workers' comp set up. Like, please, like, don't do that. So, yeah.
And so, when you first opened, I know, and we'll talk a little bit more about this newer space in a bit, but I know when you first got started, you weren't in this space, right?
No, I was on the other side of the building, in the actual incubator space where the brewing equipment and all that stuff is. So I had just a little tiny spot where I had a draft line set up and was selling there. But like I said, it was on the other side of the building. It was difficult to get traffic back there. And then COVID hit. So ended up actually moving the tap room to downtown Rocky Mount. I guess this was it was like the end of 2021, maybe. And the end of 2020. And that was cool. It was a little small spot at the Bel Air Art Center, but it was like really, really tiny. And like I said, COVID was still going on, so people were kind of hesitant to come in because it's a little tight space, and people were already just weary of coming out. And so I wasn't getting a lot of foot traffic downtown, so I was offered this space, and I said, it's a much bigger space. There's already, the foot traffic at the Rocky Mount Mills because of everything else that's going on out here. So it just made sense to pack it up and bring it back over here. So here I am. I like this spot. It's really, really nice.
Yeah. And even when you were downtown, were you still doing production out here?
Yeah, I was still doing production out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were some of the beers that you brewed at the beginning? Do you or a lot of them? I mean, you mentioned the cream ale.
Yeah, the cream ale. So the Agent 7 cream ale. I've got the yeah, that's one of my staples. And then Don Dada cardamom stout. That's actually the second beer I brewed. And then I've
with
got
the cardamom.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That one actually turned out really good the first time I did it. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna, I did have to scale it up for, moving from 5 gallons to 10 barrels. But yeah, that one has always kind of worked out. And then I had the Pirate Jenny Double IPA. So those are the 3 that I try to keep in rotation always. And then I have a few that I've recently done that are probably going to make it to the regular rotation. People seem to really like them. So
yeah. And we'll talk a little bit more about the beer in a second.
Okay.
and making the beer. You mentioned COVID, and it kind of ties in with another question of evolution. How did COVID impact your operations and your production, and like how does it continue? How did your business evolve through that?
Yeah, well, big, almost like devastating, almost business ending impact. Everything was shut down, so I couldn't have customers in and sell them, draft beer, which is where you make the most money from, selling beer by the pint. So I had to shut down and try to figure out, okay, well, I've got all this beer sitting here. We got to get it out. So I started doing curbside sales of packaged beer to go, and then I was doing online sales for a while. And
were you packaging anything before that, or?
Yeah, I just started like getting some stuff in some cans. So that, thank goodness for that. But still, I had all this beer in kegs that was just sitting for months and months and months and months, and so that hurt because I ended up having to dump a lot of that because it's old beer. Myself and all my friends could not drink all of that. We tried, and there was just no way. So sadly, that was a sad day. Like the beer dumping day, that still hurts just thinking about it. But so that, and then I also had just started hiring people like to work in the tap room, and had to let everybody go because there was no tap room, and I couldn't afford to pay them because there was no income coming in. So just had to hold on, and like I said, being able to have that package stuff to go and being able to make some sales online definitely at least help keep afloat a little bit. And then they had all the government stuff, the PPP and all that stuff. So those things definitely help, because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. You might be calling me on the phone like, I heard you used to have a.
Yeah. I think that's true for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it COVID messed up a lot of businesses, a lot of small business, not just this industry, but like restaurants, bars. People just had to shut down, and that was, and I think a lot of small businesses, I know myself, we're still recovering from that, still trying to, but it's way better than, things seem more hopeful than they did, a year ago, 2 years ago. So
yeah. When things first started opening back up again, do you remember? Can you talk a little bit about that and like how that felt to know that things were actually starting to open back up again? Was it more of a fear of things opening back up again?
It was all of that. It was like, okay, how do I do this safely? Like, do people come in and wear a mask and then they pull the mask up, take a sip, pull the. I was like, I'm not, you know, like what do you do? Because I don't want to seem like all I care about is making money or whatever. But we got to make money in order to keep the business going. So it was just a lot of, you know, trying to figure out, you know, it was excitement because I was like, yay, we're finally open. But then you start thinking about it and it's like, no, now you got to figure out how to not get people sick and how to not get yourself sick. And are people even going to come out? Which was, you know, that for a long time, people still were like, no, you know, but I did start seeing, you know, eventually people would at least come in and grab a 4-pack to go, or when I was at the downtown spot, they might come in and grab a beer and stand outside and drink it or something like that. But yeah, it took a while for things to start feeling like, I guess, normal again. You know. Yeah. That was just a weird, scary time.
Yeah. And so I believe it was May of this year is when the new tap room opened. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was early May.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that? Like what went into this space? You know, how did with a little bit of chaos still going on, how did it feel to move into a new space?
It felt good because I was like, okay, well, it's a bigger space, more open. People feel more comfortable coming in. I can do more things in here. You know, I've got books and games. Like I think the chat room I was in last was about the size of this desk. So, you know, just and like I said, being at the mill, coming out here, knowing that there's already foot traffic, and that there's already people that are looking for me because they knew when I was here before on the other side. So they're, you know, I'll bring those customers back. Yeah, it felt good to just be able to get in here and do some stuff that I wouldn't have been able to do downtown. Yeah.
Being here at the mill, how many? I know there are other breweries here too, and you talked a little bit about that. Can you talk about how that benefits you and what it's like to be in a space where it's kind of like a brewery cluster?
Yeah, it's cool. I think, like I said, I like the fact that I've got access to so many brewers. I can get second, third, and fourth opinions about stuff, and just watching other brewers and how everybody does the same thing differently. So, you know, it helps to hone your own skills and just learning like new techniques and everybody's always taste this, you know, or smell this, and I just think it's cool. You know, the guys out here are really helpful. I think I'm older than everybody, so I feel like, I don't want to say anybody's mom, but like an auntie or something. And so, you know, they kind of, they're very respectable, but funny. Like, I like these guys. They're just, it's like little brothers or something, you know, but they all know how to make beer. And you know, sometimes there's that teasing each other, like, I'm gonna make a better beer than you, and like, nah, this is way better than that crap you just made. You know, so it's I think it's very beneficial to be out here and have that. Like, if something breaks down, or if I'm working on the canning line and something happens and I can't get it going, you know, there's always somebody here that's like, oh, I had that same problem, this is what you do. And so, you know, it's definitely been helpful. Learned a lot more than I would have out on my own.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in addition to the other folks who are here, can you talk a little bit about some of the resources you've drawn on to grow both kind of as a business owner and a brewer? Some of the people or organizations that you lean on?
Yeah. So I guess, well, definitely the Rocky Mount Mills and the whole incubator and all the, you know, the help that comes with that, you know, being a tenant out here. But I guess also just my mentors, people that are really believing in what I'm doing. Yeah, my mom. Wow. Just advisors, like I collect mentors, I collect advisors, like anybody that has some insight into any aspect of this, because I came out here thinking that I was just going to be making beer, and I wouldn't, like, no, dummy, you're running a business now, and there's like 10,000 parts to that I hadn't even considered. And so just people out there that are willing to lend a hand or say, hey, have you thought about doing it this way, or have you talked to these people? It's just a lot of connections that I've been able to make because of being out here doing what I'm doing, and the attention that I've been getting, from the fact that people actually seem to like my beer. So there's people like it and they want to see me succeed. So that's been amazing. Yeah.
Well, and you mentioned earlier that one of the folks you worked with very early on was Celeste. Can you talk a little bit about her and like how she impacted you, especially towards those early years?
Yeah, so I met Celeste in 2016, I think, and like I said, I was a home brewer. A buddy of mine was doing, she was working with some business school students out at Shaw University, and they were doing a program like a Shark Tank type thing for the kids, and so the kids were pitching business ideas to a panel, and I just mentioned to my friend that, I heard about this lady, Celeste Beatty. She's a brewer. That's what I want to do. I think she's awesome. And I'm like, I think I said, I think she went to Shaw. And she was like, what? She went to Shaw? I'm going to call and ask her to be on this panel. And I'm like, whatever, just not thinking anything of it. And like a month or two later, my buddy hits me up and she's like, yo, the panel is today and Celeste Beatty is here. She's on the panel. Get your ass out here. So I'm like, what? Okay. So I tailed it to Shaw University, met Celeste. It was awesome. Like a day or two later, she was at my house helping me brew beer. Wow. And so that was, it was just inspiring, getting to know her, getting to know that, knowing that, she's like one of the only ones in the industry doing this. So she was a great inspiration to see, okay, yeah, I'm not crazy. There's somebody else out here doing this, and you can do it too. So yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. It's a fun story of how to meet somebody in person too.
Right, yeah, that never happens.
No. So let's talk about some of the other collaborations that you've worked on, kind of formal collaborations.
Okay.
We talked actually before we got started filming about Blacktoberfest that Dirtbag in Fayetteville is doing, as well as other folks. But I know you've worked on a number of collaborations like that in the past. Can you talk about some of those?
Yeah. So I've done the Blacktoberfest beer. Like I said, I did make it out there this year, but the past 2 years I've been on that collab. I've collabed with Tarboro Brewing Company. We did a strawberry IPA a few years back. That was really good. I've done collabs with, I'm working on a collab right now with Ponysaurus out of Durham. That beer should be coming soon. That's going to be cool. It's purple. I'm excited.
Tell me more about your purple beer.
So it's a sour, butterfly pea flower sour. So the butterfly pea flower makes it purple. So,
interesting.
Yeah, that's a really, really good one. It's first sour I've ever done. So that was cool to work with them on that, because they know a little bit more about sours than I do. So I got to learn something from those guys. Doing a collab actually for this year's Blacktoberfest with Chef Ricky from Saltbox Seafood. He just won the James Beard Award. So that beer is done and ready to go. I think,
What kind is that one?
It's a cold IPA. Yeah. I've only got it on draft right now, but I will have it available at the Blacktoberfest.
And it would go good with seafood.
Oh yeah, yes, definitely, definitely. Yeah, it's kind of it's really light. Got a lot of grapefruit, pineapple notes in there, so it's gonna be really good. Recently did a collab with Standard out of Raleigh. We did a Baltic Porter, so coffee Baltic Porter. So I'm excited about that one. It's not quite ready yet. Oh, and then a collab that I've just brewed the third beer in this collaboration with the rap group Run the Jewels.
I was going to ask about that one.
Yeah, so I've done 3 beers for them. I did a strong ale called All Due Respect. I did a double IPA called All My Life, and just brewed a alt beer that's going to taste like banana bread. And yeah, that's Oh My Darling. So all of it, it's after songs, Run the Jewels songs. So
how does that collab usually work when you're working with Run the Jewels? Well, do you come up with the ideas, or?
I've come up with the recipes and all that stuff. I think and then the first 2 I got to name them, which is some of my favorite songs off of that their second, the Run the Jewels 2 album. So that's been cool. I still haven't met LP and Killer Mike yet, but I've heard that they like the beer. They've asked me to make a third one, so hopefully that means I'm doing something right.
One step closer to meeting him.
Right. At some point I'm going to look up and they're going to be like right there. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
And I know you did a beer, a Farm Aid beer, didn't you? The honey.
Yeah, well, that's the beer that I took to Farm Aid, but it wasn't like a...
It wasn't just for Farm Aid?
No. But it was, Tiny Beekeeper. It's honey, Saison. I put mixed peppercorns in there and honey that I got from Canita, North Carolina, which was harvested by kid beekeepers. There's like 5-year-olds out there harvesting honey. Yeah, so that's why I called it Tiny Beekeeper, because just the idea, I didn't get to see them doing it, but just the image in my head of a little beekeeper. So.
Well, and I think it's cool, not just that the kids were getting the honey, but that it's local. It's,
yes,
an emphasis on local. Is that something that's important to you? With
yes,
some of these
it is, and that was why that was the beer that I took to Farm Aid, because it's like, okay, Farm Aid is about farms and local, and so I said, well, this is just at least local honey in here. I try to source as much as I can locally. It's really harder than I had imagined before, getting into this. But I thought it was cool to be able to show that they've got some really good honey out in Canita, North Carolina, and there's babies harvesting it. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, we talked about you doing collaborations with other folks. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the collaborations the brewery does with non-beer groups, here in Rocky Mount or elsewhere, kind of some of the either mentorship opportunities or community service types of things that you work on?
Okay,
or
so
support?
So we've got the Meal Chill coming up. It's I think it's 5K run for MS, and so we have runners sign up. Like a lot of breweries from the state come out here to participate, and we have runners come out, and it's just a big fundraiser, and so that's fun. Also, some of the proceeds from the Run the Jewels collabs, I get to pick a charity to donate 15% of the proceeds to. So it usually I've been donating them to Hayti Heritage Center out of Durham, just because Durham is home. I love everything Durham. I love Hayti. There's been I've tried doing some internships with people that have been expressed interest in brewing. I'm still working on that, like just trying to find the right people that, like I said, that actually want to do it and don't just want to take selfies, but that's something I'm still working on actively. Also have just donated and contributed to local nonprofits in the area. Also looking to work with OIC of Rocky Mount, which they do. It's like a trade school type thing. So I'd like to trying to get some kind of brewing program going with them. I've talked to different organizations, a couple of HBCUs actually, about trying to get some kind of brewing program going. That's like the dream, like to get something, a school going, and maybe even start some kind of incubator space myself at some point. I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your operations here. Let's talk a little bit about the system that you use, how much you typically brew, what the barrelage is, and whatnot.
Well, we have it's a 10-barrel system, and then I have a couple of 10-barrel fermentation tanks, and then I have a 20-barrel. So sometimes I usually do just a 10-barrel batch, but for the sometimes I do have to do a double, and I'll brew into that 20-barrel fermenter. So I'm doing about 60 to 70 barrels a month right now.
And with the incubator space, do you have like dedicated barrels and tanks, or?
Yeah, dedicated fermenters. Yeah,
cool.
Everybody has their own fermenter, and then we share the actual brewing system.
Yeah, that's why I was curious as to how that. If y'all had, it's hard enough to schedule in one brewery. I was wondering if you had to schedule them.
Well, there's two brewing systems that we can use. So everybody just gets on the schedule when they can, and we all share the same canning line. We have to just schedule it out.
Yeah. And we talked briefly about this before we started recording, but speaking of canning, can you talk a little bit about distribution outside of the tap room? Are you, or how far are you doing that now?
Well, I'm currently doing self-distribution. I did have a distributor before, but I'm not working with them anymore, so I'm just doing it myself right now, which is a lot. But I'm like the guy you said that was driving from. I'm that guy. I'm that guy right now.
How far out are you going?
I think the furthest I've been was Charlotte, but I've had people come from like Boone to pick up beer. So working on, that's another thing, big thing that I'm working on is hiring a couple of like delivery drivers, getting a couple of delivery vans so I can focus on other stuff and not be in the car all the time. But
right now, is it mainly like how many folks aside from you are part of the operation as a whole?
Right now, I have 4 people that help in the help in the tap room, like running the register. Outside of that, it's me, and I have friends and family that come and help and volunteer when they can, and that's the team.
Yeah. So you're doing all the brewing. You don't have an assistant. No,
I'm working on it. Like I said, I've got somebody that recently has been coming and helping out, kind of like a part-time thing or whenever he can, but it's not a regular thing.
Yeah. No, I can see that being a lot while you also have to drive around and do your distribution.
Yeah.
So if you had your way, where would you see Spaceway going in the future? Next few years?
Next few years?
Future?
Well, I'm working on a project in Durham, actually, trying to open a tap room there.
Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so actually I've been working on that for about 2 years, just because,
the last few years
have been just, So still working on that, looking to have that going, hopefully about summer.
Where in Durham are you?
The downtown area. So yeah, looking forward to that. Just not just because it's home, it's where I want it to be anyway. But yeah, I think that will be a good market for me. Like out here is cool, but it's not Durham. As far as like the traffic that I'd see up there, and like I said, my family's there. My mom's there. I grew up there, so looking forward to that. But it's just going to be a tap room, and then hoping to do some kind of production in that area in the near future. Say the next 4 years. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to doing.
Yeah.
And yeah.
That sounds like a very, so I guess longer term, even thinking beyond that, like in your ultimate perfect world, where do you want to see Spaceway going?
I'd like to get into distilled spirits. I want to make some whiskey. So that's where I'd like to go. Have a, I don't know if you've ever been to a brew distillery, where it's a big production place where they brew it on one side and then they're distilling spirits on another side. So I'd like to do something like that. I'd like to do more events. I have a ton of events and stuff in my head that I want to do, but I just trying to find the time to do it and the help to bring that about is, so that's another big thing. I'm looking forward to being fully staffed with a team of reliable, dedicated workers that want to help grow this company. And I'm starting to, slowly get the people that I need. So I'm confident that I'll see that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking broader beyond, industry-wide, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see in the industry, the craft beer industry today? And challenges you can take as good or bad.
I guess smaller breweries being able to scale up and meet the production needs that they have. Like everything is so expensive now. Just the cost of ingredients, the cost of shipping, all of that is just like, okay, well, how do I how do I balance that out and can be able to continue to grow? I think another one of the big challenges is just, like I said, trying to get more black and brown people in the industry with actual ownership, and being the captains of their ships, so to say.
Yeah, and even here in North Carolina, we don't have. I'm trying to think, other than here and Dirtbag, is there another open brewery owned by an African American right now?
I think there's one in Charlotte. I can't remember the name. I think he recently opened.
Okay.
But I believe that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then same for women owned and operated. There's, out of how many, 800?
It grows every day, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a lot. And,
yeah.
But yeah, women and black and brown people, we don't make up we're tiny drop in the bucket.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that ties back into something you were talking about earlier, when you were talking about making the tap room and inviting space. For everybody. And can you talk a little bit more about kind of that on an industry-wide level and what you do to combat that here?
I don't know. Somebody told me that they like coming in here because we talk to them. And it was so weird to me, but I thought about it. If you go to a lot of places, I mean, it's not everywhere, but a lot of places, if you go, it's just like, take your beer, get out of my face. And no, like, we'll sit here and have a conversation with you. Like, where are you from? People like that, like just feeling seen and that you care that they exist. And that's sad. That's sad. But I think that's a big draw. I get people, they say, I came all the way from Virginia to see you. So how dare me sit here and just like take this beer and go over there? No, what are you doing in Virginia? What are you drinking up there? Just talk to people. That it makes a huge difference. Like,
yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about. So again, thinking industry-wide, where do you either see or hope to see the industry in 5 or 6 years? Like, where do you, big picture, where are we going? Or hoping to go?
Definitely, like I said before, like to see more women and minority owned spaces. Maybe spaces collabing more on events and finding ways to make it more welcoming to people. I think that's the big thing for me, is just making these spaces seem more welcoming than a lot of them are right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. So again, thinking industry-wide, are there industry-wide trends today, like trends in beer and brewing, that you particularly love, or that you particularly are never going to touch with a 10-foot pole?
Seltzers.
Which one is that? Never going to touch?
I'm not doing a seltzer. I don't think. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. And, every now and then I'm like,
we got it on film now.
Yeah, right. I said it now, so yeah, that's me trying to hold myself accountable. I think that's the only thing that I've just been like, no, man, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. But everything else, I mean, I'm always open to trying something. I'm not really into the super fruity stuff, but I think they're cool. I might collab with somebody on something like that, but other than that, I'm always excited about different things to hear about the different things that people are trying to just bring out different flavors, or so I'm always excited about that. Just not seltzers, please.
Well, with the not seltzers, where do you get the inspiration when you're developing recipes? I mean, like you said, cardamom's not something people normally throw in a beer.
Right. I think, well, for that one, and that's where the name comes from, Dandada. I was eating Jamaican food, and sometimes you're eating, you start dancing because the food is so good, and it brings back memories of, or for me anyway, like sometimes I'll have a song will pop in my head, and I'm dancing and I'm eating this food. I don't remember what I was eating, maybe some oxtails or something like that, and there was cardamom in the dish, and so I'm thinking, what would be a good beer to go with this? And I was like, a stout, but like with cardamom, and maybe I was thinking of a cocktail, old fashioned. So that's kind of smoky. I put sweet orange peel in that beer. So for me, that beer is it's an old fashioned, but it's a beer.
Yeah. And so is that a lot of your ideas? Do they come from music, a food or a music that just kind of sends you into a rabbit hole?
Yeah. So that's where the Dandada, that's the name of a reggae song I used to listen to when I was a teenager. And then the Agent 7 Cream Ale, that's from a Diggable Planets song. They had a song called Agent 7 Creamy Spies. So a lot of it is just music that I'm thinking about. My Pirate Jenny, double IPA, Pirate Jenny, that's Nina Simone's song. And Pirate Jenny is like the strongest beer that I make right now. It's like 9.5%. That song is about a strong female character who's out like seeking revenge.
Yeah.
So that's where, a lot of it's inspired by music that I listen to, food that I'm eating, memories of something somebody said somewhere in a book I was reading. So, yeah.
For ones like Pirate Jenny, did the name come first, or did the beer come first, and then you picked a name for it?
I think I had the name first, and then I was like, yeah, I want something strong and like something that's just like pow, like I'm here, drink me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always just find it interesting. Some people go in one direction and others go.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Nothing bad about that. So here, we've talked a little bit about the cream ale and the stout being standard beers that are on tap. Do you consider those, or even is there one in particular that you consider the flagship beer for Spaceway?
Those two definitely. I think those are the most requested, and those are have been my biggest sellers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you personally, do you have a favorite? Can you pick a favorite child?
That's what I was going to say. It's like telling me pick a baby. I think the Dandada, just because, I really love the Agent 7, but it's like, it's a beer. It's not like, it's more flavorful than a Budweiser or whatever, but it's, that's what I give people when they say, what do you have that's close to a Budweiser? I'm like, nothing but drink this. The Dandada, it's just so much going on with it, with the cardamom, and then all the, the memories of, listening to that song as a kid. I think that's, and just like the artwork on the label, I love it. I think it's amazing. So,
yeah. Talk a little bit more about that artwork. How did that come to be?
So when I was first getting started, I was working with I was looking for like design artists first of all, to come up with just the Spaceway logo. And again, I was at beer study, sitting at the bar, just having a beer, and got to talking with this guy that was sitting next to me, and I was like, yeah, I'm looking for a design artist. And he's like, oh, I do graphic design. And right? And so we got to talking. I was like, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, oh, yeah, me and my brother, we have the design studio. Let's get together. Let's talk about it. And so I told him what I was looking to do. First of all, they came up with the amazing, just the Spaceway logo itself. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm working with you guys. And then I was telling him, okay, these are the beers that I have. This is what I'm thinking for this beer, for the Dandada. And I was telling him my inspiration behind the beer and what I was thinking, and they managed to get that on paper. And same for the Pirate Jenny label.
It's the same guys who've done all of them?
Well, no, they've done the Dandada, the Pirate Jenny, the Agent 7, and then 2 of the Run the Jewels collab beers.
That's awesome.
Yeah, those guys are dope.
What are their names?
Ricardo and Pablo Cortez out of Studio 2. Yeah, check them out. Those guys know what they're doing.
We'll get their names on.
Yeah.
And so we've come to the question that's always my favorite to ask and the least favorite for beer folks to answer.
Okay.
What's your favorite beer from a North Carolina brewery other than yours? If you spent time at beer study, you've had to have some good stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
You don't have to pick one. You can pick more than one.
Okay. I'm trying to think. Like one of my favorites off the top of my head is from Hall River Brewing out of Saxapahaw. They did a black lager, and I can't think of the name of it. But just thinking about it, I'm like, I gotta go see if I can find that somewhere because I haven't had it this year. So them. Let's see. Casita. They got some really good stuff. I can't think of the name. Like they've got a really good IPA that I really like. Gosh,
Well,
there's so much beer.
you mentioned a dark lager and an IPA. Does your own personal taste kind of run the gamut up for beer?
It just depends on the time of year. Well, I should say IPAs, I drink them all year round. But like now, I'm drinking darker beers. I'll drink like that's why I'm looking for that black lager. Yeah, and stouts, porters right now. That's what I'm typically drinking. Box, some Doppelbock, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thinking about what we've talked about so far and the story of Spaceway as a whole, is there anything we haven't talked about that you would want to talk about in terms of getting that full picture and that full story?
Ew.
There's always something left.
I know there's something in it, like I go home tonight, I'll be like, you know how that goes, like yeah. I just I guess beer festivals.
Yeah. Especially because you talked about Blacktoberfest.
Yeah, that's
as an event, not just the beer.
Yeah, so that's next weekend.
Yep.
And then I've got another doing a beer festival in Nashville called Octobrewfest on the 15th. And then out here we've got the Rocky Mount Beer Festival. That's next month. I think it's the 12th.
Yeah. So for you, when you're doing beer festivals, I'm going to guess that it kind of ties in with the way you talked about running the tap room, where it's meet and greet and.
Yeah, just meet and greet. It's more, they're fun. It's an opportunity to meet and talk to other brewers that I typically wouldn't be in the same space with, So I think that's my favorite part of the beer festivals, because you get to meet people like, oh, I had one of your beers before, but I haven't had a chance to make it out to your tap room. So I think that's the beauty of beer festivals for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you mentioned Blacktoberfest next weekend, right?
Yeah, the 22nd.
Either next, yeah.
So it's a week after.
Week after this weekend.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about that and why that's an important festival.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Blacktoberfest is in Durham. It brings together brewers from across the country, black brewers from across the country. There's not many, so it's awesome to see, folks that from out of state. That it's like I can't get to Chicago right now, but if you come to this festival, we can meet and maybe talk about our stories and relate to one another on our our journeys. Trying to get these things, get these breweries going. So I think that's, and then they always pair each brewer with another, not necessarily a brewery, but like my collaboration with Chef Ricky from Saltbox. It just gives it's another way to get, small business kind of some attention, and given opportunities to be creative with one another. So I really think this is going to be a cool festival again, like it has been the past couple of years. So, and it's just growing. So I'm excited to get to the festival.
Yeah. And is it in Durham every year, or does it move around?
It's been in Durham the past 2 years. The first year they did it out here in Rocky Mount, and then they're also doing this year they did Atlanta and St. Louis. I think Atlanta is this weekend, or maybe it was this past weekend. But yeah,
that's awesome. Yeah. Anything else you can think of?
Nothing off the top of my head. No.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.